A very good morning to you guys. Welcome to Asake Online. This is the Breakfast Club. My name is Brighton. Today on the show, we're going to be looking at issues of technology, issues of robotics, issues of coding, and how can young people be part of this. In particular, young girls can be part of this. Those who are coming from STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, how can they be participating in these programs to also push development and come up with solutions to different problems we are facing as a community? So to help me unpack and understand that is Tatenda, coming from Girls in STEM Trust. She's the project coordinator there, so she's going to help me unpack that and understand more of what they're doing there as Girls in STEM. Good morning to Tatenda. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brighton, for having me today.
Then let's reflect on since 2018 as Girls in STEM. What have you guys been doing in terms of coming up with different programs? What programs have you guys doing?
Right. So maybe let me start by explaining what Girls in STEM is all about. So Girls in STEM Trust is a non-profit organization that is founded basically on promoting education. So now we are after empowering young women and girls to take up facets in STEM. So STEM, that being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics as well. That is what Girls in STEM Trust is. So ever since 2018, last year we managed to celebrate 5 years at Girls in STEM Trust. So ever since 2018, we've had a number of programs that we've put in place to help support the girl child to also be at the same table, for example, as the boy child as well when it comes to STEM. So some of the programs that we have, for example, we have the STEM News Community Series. So with the STEM News Community Series now, it's a community of girls that we've managed to bring together who are interested in STEM subjects and STEM careers. So with that now, we bring in professionals, for example, professional women who are already in the field of STEM to come and just talk to the girls and tell them more about, be it maybe in science, how they came to be medical doctors, or how they came to be digital marketers in the technology field, or how they are in civil engineering, for example, or electronic engineering, and in mathematics as well, right? How they've been into the fintech industry, how they're accepted, and how, some of the challenges that they may face being a female gender, but then, at the end of the day, you do succeed, right? We also have, for example, the digital skills program for rural girls, right? So we noticed that as much as we are paying more attention to girls in the urban areas, for example, children, for the girl child in the rural areas also deserves the same opportunity that the girl child is receiving in the urban areas. So we've extended our program to digital skills for rural girls, right? In rural areas, right? So whereby we go out there and, just give them a basic understanding of technology, of what is a computer, how to use a computer. This is how you type, for example, a Word document. If you're going to type your CV to apply for a job, this is how you're going to do it. This is how you use the internet. This is how you use an email, because it's very important, right? With Girls in STEM Trust, our mantra is her digital skills, her future. And I'm sure you can agree with me with the way the world is just taking a drastic turn with the avenue of technology. Some say already in the 5th industrial revolution, to say the least, right? And, it's important to bring the girls that are in the rural areas to that table as well, so that they too can partake in where the world is going, right? We also have a program called...
Before going further, I want to ask maybe on that rural area part, how has been the response in rural areas? I know at times in rural areas, people are now focusing on chores and so on and so on. How has been the response focusing now on technology and also young girls?
No, the response has been amazing, to say the least. It's enthusiastic. It's amazing how, for example, the schools that we work with, right? Let me not go far. We have Lockview Primary School. So that's in the peri-urban areas, right? You'd say the head, for example, has accepted us very well in her school. She says, no, these children actually need, to be in front of a computer. They need to know how to use one. They need to know how they can use the skills that they can have to be a success in the future, So the welcome has really been warm. It's been enthusiastic. It's been amazing. And to say the least, as Girls in STEM Trust, we are humbled to be accepted in such areas. And we're humbled to see how our skills and how our expertise and the resources that we're bringing in for the girl child can actually go a long way. Yeah.
Let's move on to Africa Code Week. I know this one focuses more on the issues that problems in communities, right? And young girls come up with solutions by coding, right? Speak to us more about that concept.
All right, so Africa Code Week, that's a program that we've also been part of ever since 2018. So now you'd find that it's a program whereby we're going around schools and we're introducing a platform for coding called Scratch. So it's called Scratch 3.0, right? With Scratch 3.0, it's more of like the drag and drop method, right? Before you get to the complex side
What is
of coding.
drag and so on? What's that?
All right, so drag and drop is like, it's an interface. So the Scratch platform is an interface whereby there are blocks, right? On the coding palette, they're actually blocks. So now you need to drag the block from the coding palette onto the white space, right? Which is, we like to call it the brain of the project, right? So now when you drag it to the brain of the project and you put the coding palettes or the coding blocks together, right? Just like a puzzle. So you're basically putting a puzzle together. At the end of the day, the sprite, for example, which is the character in the Scratch 3.0 platform, is supposed to move maybe from one page of the stage to the other page of the stage, right? So that is basically the foundation for beginners who are getting to understand and to know coding before you move on to the actual complex stuff. So Africa Code Week has been very much of a big problem, a big program for us at Girls in STEM Trust, whereby we're actually pushing and we're going into schools and bringing the girl child to the table and, introducing them to coding and how coding is fun. Yeah.
So speak of coding, speak of scratch and dropping and so on, coming up with different concepts and applications, right? But look at Zimbabwe, the issue of data prices, very high data prices. At times, network speed is very low. Speak us more about that as a challenge in terms of you guys working for coding and so on.
Yes, data prices, yes, they are a very big challenge. As you can see, most of the time, everywhere you go, you need to actually have data. You need to have data to access the internet. You need to have data to do whatever you're doing on your phone. But then the beauty of some of the applications that we move around with in different schools, right? They don't need the internet, right? They don't need data. You can actually use them offline, which is the beauty of that. So it's not limiting us to giving children out the skills that they need, which is the beauty of the applications that we're using. Yeah.
Still on the Africa Code Week, what are some of the programs or applications that you guys have coded, young girls have coded in rural areas to come up with solutions for the communities? I know some have done issues of entrepreneurship. What are some of the key issues that you guys have chosen as a challenge and come up with this application to code or come up with this application to solve a problem in the community?
Right. So, for example, I would say we are trying to bring technology, right, into the community everywhere, like all over, despite being in the rural or despite being in the urban. So now with Africa Code Week, for example, the Scratch 3.0 platform, that's the application that we've been using, right, to introduce coding everywhere, right? So you find that with that application now, the impact is you no longer really have to concentrate on using the textbook format or way of learning in the classroom, right? You find that children have a certain attention span that they can only operate on. Some, for example, 30 minutes, some can go for an hour, some maybe 20 minutes. So, educators, teachers need to find, fun and innovative ways of making sure that the attention span of the child is at 100% in the classroom. And with Scratch 3.0, it enables them to actually do that. So what they can do now is they can actually plan their lessons around Scratch. You can do mathematics, for example, on Scratch. You can come up with agricultural subjects on Scratch, right? You can, for example, if you want to introduce an ECD child to storytelling, right? You can use Scratch for that. If you want to introduce an ECD child to spelling words, right? You can develop a game, for example, or just a mere educational game, right? Whereby you can put maybe letters and say make a word out of those letters. So that's how the applications are actually making a very huge impact in the community that we're living in.
Mm-hmm. Now let's move on to the World Robotic Olympiad. What's that? I hear robots are taking over now. The world are taking our jobs as well. Just speak to us more about the World Robotic Olympiad. What's that all about?
Right. So the World Robot Olympiad, right? It's a robotics competition, basically for students all over the world, right? So now with the World Robot Olympiad, basically it aims to, foster STEM subjects, for example, to bring that interest into taking up STEM subjects, right? It's also pushing for, problem solving skills, creative skills, innovative skills that these students, these children can actually bring to the table worldwide, and to say the least, even in Zimbabwe. So I'm actually happy to say that Girls in STEM Trust, right? Last year we managed to hold a pilot program for the World Robot Olympiad, where we had a few schools come in and just to, have a feel of how it would be like to actually host the National World Robot Olympiad in Zimbabwe. And we are really humbled to say that this year we actually got the license to host the World Robot Olympiad in Zimbabwe. And, over the past few weeks, we've actually been moving around the country. For example, we've been to Harare and Masvingo to, host World Robot Olympiad hackathons, right? So like they're qualifiers, right, for the actual national robotic competition that we'll be having next week from the 24th to the 28th at NAST, right? So you'd find that we've actually been, in touch with different schools. We had in Harare, for example, there's Dominican Convent Harare. It was there. There was Seke High School, right? There's Groom Beach. Some of the schools that actually came to the hackathon in Harare. In Masvingo, we actually had Chirieti coming through. There's Ndarama High School, Simuto, such schools have been coming to the table to actually witness what this robotics competition is all about, right? Which is very interesting because, we are moving towards, there's the notion of education 5.0, right? And, with technology being part of that policy, right? Robotics needs to come into play in schools, right? And these competitions actually open up children to they give children an exposure to what's happening, for example, in first world countries, right? Despite the limited resources that we may have here right now in Zimbabwe, but then we too are trying to push, right, to make an impact for our own children here in Zimbabwe to also be at the same level with children from other countries.
But growing up, when I was at school, there was a time when the issue of STEM subjects, right? There was a low uptake of STEM subjects, issue of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. There's a low uptake, right? Now focus on girls only. You're working with different schools, right? You mentioned different schools across Harare, Masvingo, and so on. How is the uptake of STEM subjects now in 2024 in schools, in particular for young girls?
Wow. To say, honestly, I would say I'm amazed with the way the transition has taken place, right? Long time ago, you'd actually be like, no, STEM subject, it's not for the girl child. If you'd actually go home and tell your parents and be like, mom, I want to do, for example, MPC, right? That's maths, physics, and chemistry. Your mom or your dad would tell you, no, that's not for you. You're more on the art side, or maybe going to something to do with business, right? Or accounts. They would actually push you towards there. But then right now, with the level at which the world is turning, and parents actually and the community at large are starting to accept that technology is part of us. We are living in a technological era. So even the children, right, needs to be part of that change. And you'd find that in schools, right, you'd find the number of girls who are now taking up STEM subjects, is massive, right? The percentage is fast growing every single year in the education sector of girls who are actually taking up STEM subjects. Some girls, for example, are now even taking part in these robotics challenges, right? And for example, the likes of Jonette, right? I'm not sure if you've heard of her, right? From Dominican Convent. She actually developed a sign language interpreter system, right? And she went to the USA for that one, right? We have the likes of Makanaka, who is also part of our Girls in STEM Trust community, right? She's been in different platforms with these technology competitions, right? For example, she's been on the Innovators Forum, the one that was recently held at ZITF, right? She's been to the one, there was a CPZ competition that was there, whereby she designed a banking system that can actually help, right? So you see—
How old are these people talking about? Are talking about grown-ups, universities, or talking about high school students? How old are these people talking about?
No, they're freshly out of high school, if I should put it that way. So they're freshly out of high school and they're moving on to university. So you see, so that gives you a picture of how how girls are now actually taking up STEM subjects or STEM facets from a very young age, which is very interesting, if I should
But
say.
also, how important are these robotic hackathons? I know I've seen different challenges to a hackathon and so on. How important are these hackathons to students in particular? If you go to a school, there's a hackathon challenge. How important are these to students, in particular in Zimbabwe?
Right. So these competitions are really important in the sense that it's not all about being, hands-on, putting stuff together and everything. But then these competitions actually do something to the mind and the inner person that you're becoming, right? For example, these competitions actually encourage computational thinking. So now with computational thinking, you're improving your ability to be innovative. You're improving your ability to think on your feet, right? If you're presented with a problem, you're fast to think of a solution. Like in the next 10 seconds, if someone were to come to you right now and present you with a problem or a challenge that is massive, you'd be like, no, let's just attack this problem this way, right? You're being innovative, you're developing yourself with different skills, and which is what the job market actually is looking for right now, right? Especially if you look at the jobs of the future, some of the skills that are required from the jobs of the future, such as creativity. You need to know how to maneuver with AI, for example, artificial intelligence, right? You need to be able to collaborate with other people, right? So these competitions are actually putting you in a collaborative setup whereby you're actually working in a team. So whether you like that person or not, you need to be able to collaborate with that person to come up with a solution, right? And the beauty about these competitions is that they are giving way to actually identifying some of the challenges that we may have, for example, as a city or as a nation or even globally, right? And these kids, these students are actually coming up with very innovative ideas that can actually be incorporated, for example, in all countries and in Zimbabwe, for example, as well, right? To actually make our nation an even better nation from where we are right now.
But I've been working with schools, I've been working with parents as well. I can't let my child go and do this hackathon. We look really what you call this consent and so on. How is the response from the parents and the headmasters from these schools and the teachers in particular for where we've been working with in terms of coming up with these hackathons, in terms of encouraging students to go and do these STEM subjects?
Right. So I would love to say that from the schools that we've been visiting, right, the reception has been amazing. Yes, at times you will face blocks, right, from the admin, but then you really need to just sit down with them and explain to them how these programs actually impact the children in the school, right? So we would love to say that parents and the admin, the schools really have been amazing when it comes to these STEM subjects, right? So you'd find that we're actually opening up our space right now for people to come in and, seek our services. We actually go to schools and teach robotics as a club, right? Because some schools haven't actually really put it into the syllabus as a subject during the day. So what we do is we've offered, it's fine. We can come in the afternoon as an extracurricular activity and, just open up the kids' minds to what robotics is all about and some of the components that they'll be using, things like that. Yeah.
Maybe as you close off the show this morning, what can you expect from the robotics event because you'll be doing in Bulawayo? What can you expect from that event?
Okay, so what we can expect from that event is innovative ideas, right? So these kids are going to be basically put in a space whereby they will be pushed to their limits, right? So now they have to identify challenges that are going on, be it in Zimbabwe or all around the world, and they need to come up with amazing solutions, like innovative ideas from that. So what I can say we can expect is solutions that we too can actually bring to the table, for example, as the city of Bulawayo and as Zimbabwe as a nation, that we can incorporate into the systems that are already there to make our nation, a beautiful and much better nation. And, bring ourselves up there back into where Zimbabwe once was before. Yeah.
So details of the program, the dates, the event, where it's going to be held, and so on.
Right. So we'll be having this event at NUST, which is the National University of Science and Technology. Right. It's going to start on Monday, the 24th to the 28th of June, which is next week. Yes.
So to wrap up the show, any future endeavors, any future plans for Girls in STEM? Any plans you guys will be working on as Girls in STEM?
Right. We'll be having more of these competitions, for example, these robotics endeavors. It's definitely an aspect or a space we are venturing largely into, right? And to talk about more of that, right, we also have programs that will be delivering into the community. So it's not just for the students. We're actually looking at women as well, and we're actually looking at young youths that are in the community, right? For example, we have partnered up with Brighton Ncube, right? For example. Right. So we actually inviting young people to come into the space, so that we can have more talks about technology. And those are some of the programs that we actually want to venture into so that we leave no children behind. And we try to, deal with some of the SDG goals, right? SDG 5, 4, 5, and 8, right? So that we can actually bring in economic development as well as an organization. So, yeah.
Tatenda, thanks so much for your time, for coming through this morning.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was amazing.
Yeah, that is Tatenda. They're coming from Girls in STEM. She's the project coordinator for Girls in STEM. They're speaking about different issues that have been tackling in the robotic world, Olympiad. We're talking about Africa Code Week. Different issues they are going to be focusing on as they go towards developing our city, developing our nation. Hope you guys enjoyed that show, and to follow us on site on all platforms, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. We are there to give you all these stories, and to follow them as well, Girls in STEM, to follow their programming that they do across the country. From myself, Brighton Ncube, it's bye for now.